Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Dax, and today we're diving into a topic that's been around for over 2,000 years, but is more relevant than ever for personal growth, Stoicism. Joining me are your favorite hosts, Zakaria and Yara, and together we're here to explore how Stoic principles can help teens navigate the journey of adolescence, whether you're dealing with peer pressure, academic stress, or just trying to figure out who you are. Stoicism offers practical life skills that can make a real difference. In this video, we'll break down how embracing virtues like wisdom, courage, and self-discipline can lead to greater resilience and emotional intelligence. So let's get started on this path to becoming the best version of ourselves.
You know, it's funny, right? Like, everyone's always telling us how to, improve ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, everyone's got the secret, like, the magic formula for a better life.
Right.
But honestly, sometimes I feel like I'm, drowning in all the advice,
It's true. There's so much information out there, especially when it comes to self-help. It's overwhelming.
Exactly. And I think that's why I'm really, really excited about this deep dive, going back to basics a bit, with a philosophy that's, it stood the test of time, Stoicism.
Yeah.
And it's not some, new age trend or anything. I mean, this has been around for centuries.
Right.
Guiding people, everyone from Roman emperors to, us.
And what's so great about Stoicism, I think, is that it's practical. It's not about airy-fairy concepts. It's really a framework for dealing with the challenges that, we all face in life.
So no more getting, totally swept away by things outside of our control.
Exactly.
Okay. That already sounds like a life skill worth learning. But let's break it down a bit. What are the core principles here that make Stoicism so effective?
So I think a good place to start is with this idea of the dichotomy of control, right? This is central to Stoicism. So imagine like a circle, okay?
Okay.
Inside that circle are your thoughts, your actions, your reactions. Basically, it's how you choose to respond to the world around you. That's your domain, right? That's your control center.
Okay, I like that. So then outside of the circle is...
Everything else. External events, other people's opinions,
Right.
the weather,
There.
all of those things are outside our direct influence.
Yeah.
And so Stoicism encourages us to kind of accept that, Don't waste energy on what you can't change.
Okay, that makes sense in theory, but what does it look like in practice, right? Like, how do we actually apply that to, the everyday stuff, Let's say I'm stuck in traffic, which happens, a lot.
Sure.
I can't control the cars, right? I can't just magically teleport out of there as much as I want to.
Exactly. You can't magically make the traffic disappear.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can control how you react to it, right?
Okay.
You can choose to sit there and fume and stress out, which, by the way, won't make the traffic move any faster.
Oh.
Or you can just accept it, maybe use that time to listen to a podcast.
This one, hopefully, but I see what you mean.
Right.
It's about finding that calm in the chaos.
Yeah.
And focusing on what you can control, which is really your own mindset.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, this idea actually ties into another one of the core principles in Stoicism, which is the 4 cardinal virtues.
Okay.
And the Stoics believe that cultivating these virtues was really essential for, living a good life, a life of what they called eudaimonia.
Eudaimonia. Okay, now that's a new one. That sounds pretty profound.
It is. It's a Greek word, and it's often translated as, flourishing or living well. And the Stoics believed that it wasn't about, achievements or possessions or any of that external stuff. It was really about aligning your life with these virtues. And those virtues are wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance.
So it's less about, checking things off of some external goal list, and it's more about, internal character development, I guess.
Yes.
Becoming a better human.
Becoming a better human. Exactly. And these virtues, they're not you're not born with them. They're things that you cultivate through practice and intention, just like any skill.
Okay.
Take wisdom, for instance. Wisdom is about seeking knowledge. It's about understanding different perspectives. It's about making sound judgments.
So having that open mind, always continuing to learn, and really, trying to see the bigger picture?
Exactly. And having the humility to know that you don't know everything.
Right.
The constant process.
Okay. What about justice? I mean, it seems kind of straightforward, I guess, but I'm guessing the Stoics had a deeper perspective on that.
They did. It goes beyond just fairness.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing our interconnectedness. So treating everyone with dignity and respect, even if, especially if you disagree with them, That's really Stoic justice in action.
It reminds me of that Marcus Aurelius quote. He said, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one.
Yes.
It's about action, not just words.
Exactly. Now, courage, I think most people associate courage with, like, physical bravery, right?
Right.
But the Stoics, they saw it a bit differently.
So it's more than just like facing down danger, right?
Right.
What does Stoic courage look like?
It's about inner strength. It's about facing your fears. It's about standing up for what you believe in, even when it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
That's where true courage lies.
That's that moral courage, like having the inner strength to do what you believe is right, even when things get tough.
Exactly.
Okay. And temperance. Now that one to me feels a bit more like internal.
It is. Temperance is about balance.
Okay.
It's about self-control. It's about moderating your desires, not being ruled by, fleeting passions or impulses. It's about finding that balance between indulgence and deprivation.
So, like having the discipline to say no to that extra slice of cake.
Sure.
Because, long term, it serves your well-being more.
Yes, exactly.
It's about making choices that align with, again, like your values, not just your like immediate desires.
Yes, precisely. And it's important to remember that these 4 virtues, they're not just like isolated ideals, right? They're interconnected. They support each other. They reinforce each other. And they work together to build that foundation for, the good life that the Stoics talk about.
I love how like these virtues all weave together, almost like they're creating this moral compass, But like each one represents a different aspect of like living a fulfilling life. But okay, let's get practical, right? We've got these principles down, but what about actually putting them into practice?
Right.
So, philosophy's great, but like living it, that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. That's where the Stoic practices come in. It's like they give us these tools to embody those virtues, take those concepts and make them real.
Okay. And hopefully these practices are, a little more doable than, say, like meditating in a cave for a year.
Yeah, definitely a bit more achievable. A lot of the Stoic practices are surprisingly like down to earth. And some of them can even be, a bit counterintuitive.
Counterintuitive. Okay, now you've got me interested.
Yeah.
What's one that might surprise people?
Well, have you ever heard of negative visualization?
Negative visualization. Okay, that sounds kind of intense.
Right.
Tell me more.
I know. It sounds a little intimidating, but like, just hear me out. Basically, it involves taking some time to imagine the worst case scenario.
Okay.
Like, really visualize potentially losing the things that you value the most.
So like picturing my dog running off with my phone. Although to be honest, knowing him, that's less of a visualization and more of a Tuesday.
Right. Well, it could be something lighthearted like that.
Okay.
But, on a deeper level, it's about contemplating the impermanence of everything, right? Like our stuff, our relationships, even ourselves.
Okay. So that's where the negative visualization comes in. But how does like dwelling on all the bad stuff actually help?
So that's the counterintuitive part. By confronting these potential negative outcomes, by mentally like preparing for them, it actually reduces their power to paralyze you with fear. Remember that article, Why Stoicism is the Ultimate Self-Improvement Philosophy? They had that story about the 2 fathers who had both lost their sons.
Oh, right. Yeah. And the one father, he was just consumed by grief. And the other one, he somehow found a way to, to keep going. It was so sad. But also, I don't know, like really inspiring in a way.
Exactly. And, the Stoic father, he'd already contemplated the fragility of life through practices like negative visualization. And, it didn't erase the pain, obviously, but it gave him the strength to face it.
Wow. That's really powerful. It's almost like, I don't know, like pre-grieving, I guess. You're building up that resilience for when life, inevitably throws those curveballs.
Exactly. And, beyond reducing fear, negative visualization also helps to cultivate gratitude. When you actually consider the very real possibility of losing something that's precious to you, it makes you appreciate it even more in the present moment.
Yeah, it's like that saying, you don't know what you've got till it's gone. But this is more like you really know what you have before it's gone,
Exactly. Exactly. And that appreciation, that gratitude, it's a really powerful antidote to things like dissatisfaction and anxiety.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So it's not about being pessimistic, right?
No, not at all.
It's about kind of embracing reality, that like nothing lasts forever, and using that awareness to really like live more fully right now in the present.
Now you're getting it. It's about finding that place of calm in the middle of all the uncertainty of life. Speaking of finding calm, maybe we can transition to another Stoic practice, Mindfulness.
Mindfulness. Okay,
Yeah.
that one I've definitely heard of. It's all about being present, right? Like in the moment. But I always imagine, those monks like meditating on mountaintops.
Right.
It's not exactly how I picture my Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah, I hear you. So mindfulness does have roots in those like formal meditation practices, but it doesn't have to be this big, elaborate thing.
Okay.
You don't need a mountaintop retreat or anything.
Okay.
It's really simply about bringing your attention to this present moment, right here, right now. And you do it without judgment. So you're just noticing your thoughts, your feelings, and what's going on around you.
So like really savoring that first cup of coffee in the morning instead of, scrolling through emails.
Exactly. Or, like being fully present during a conversation, actually listening to the other person instead of just like waiting for your turn to talk.
Right, yeah.
It's about breaking free from that like autopilot mode that we can all kind of get stuck in.
That makes sense. It probably takes practice to, break out of those habits though, right?
Yeah, it does. But, even just little bursts of mindfulness throughout the day can make a difference. And, if you are someone who likes things a bit more structured, journaling can be a great way to cultivate more self-awareness.
Journaling. Like as a Stoic practice. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's really about taking some time to reflect on your day. See if you can identify any patterns in, the way you think or the way you behave.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you notice what tends to trigger certain emotions. Like you were saying, it's all about, getting to know yourself a bit better.
So then by understanding those patterns, you can start making more conscious choices about how you respond to them.
Exactly.
Which kind of brings us back to that whole dichotomy of control thing we were talking about.
You got it. You're catching on so quickly.
Okay.
Are you ready for one more Stoic practice? This one might challenge you a little bit.
Oh, bring it on. After negative visualization, I feel like I can handle anything at this point.
All right, Sam. Let's talk about embracing discomfort.
Embracing discomfort. Okay, now you're just messing with me. Who enjoys being uncomfortable?
I promise you, it is a real Stoic practice, and it can be very powerful.
Okay.
It's about stepping outside of that comfort zone on purpose,
Mm-hmm.
exposing yourself to challenges, big and small. Remember that article, 7 Stoic Practices to Help You Become Your Ideal Self in 2020. It talked about pushing past those perceived limitations.
Oh, right, yeah. And it gave that example of, what was his name? David Goggins, that ultramarathon runner.
Yes.
He intentionally seeks out these like grueling challenges to test his limits. I gotta say, I'm not about to sign up for a 100-mile race anytime soon. So what would embracing discomfort look like for like a regular person?
Sure, it doesn't have to be anything extreme.
Yeah.
It could be simple as like taking a cold shower,
Oh, okay.
maybe trying out a new activity that makes you a little bit nervous, or even just speaking up in a meeting when you usually, stay quiet.
So it's really about building up that mental resilience, that inner strength.
Yes,
It kind of goes back to what we were talking about with Stoic courage, too.
exactly. It's all connected. Embracing discomfort is kind of like a muscle,
Okay.
The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
It's like that saying, right? Like, life begins at the end of your comfort zone.
Right.
But, okay, we've covered some pretty intense practices here. Negative visualization, embracing discomfort.
Yeah.
Are there any Stoic practices that are maybe a little more, like everyday applicable?
Of course. Remember those 4 cardinal virtues that we talked about?
Yeah.
Wisdom, justice, courage, temperance. Those aren't just like lofty ideas,
Okay.
They're practices in themselves.
Oh, okay.
Every single day, you have all these opportunities to make choices that align with them.
So it's about being intentional, I guess, like bringing those virtues to life in those, like, everyday moments, those small interactions.
Exactly. You don't have to climb a mountain or run a marathon to practice Stoicism.
Okay, good.
It's really about the choices that you're making right here and now in
Ah.
these everyday moments.
I love that. It makes it feel less like, this rigid philosophy and more like a way of life, like a framework for moving through the world.
Exactly.
Okay, speaking of moving through the world, how do we take all of these practices, and apply them to like the real nitty-gritty of life? Our relationships, our careers, even just like our own pursuit of happiness.
Right.
How does Stoicism help with all that?
Well, I think relationships are a great place to start because they can be amazing,
Yeah.
but they can also be really challenging, right?
Tell me about it.
So how can Stoicism give us a different perspective on like navigating all of those ups and downs?
Right.
It goes back to that core principle of control. Instead of focusing on what your partner or your friend or your family member, is doing or not doing.
Right.
Stoicism brings it back to you. It brings it back to your own sphere of influence. So that's your reactions, your expectations, and ultimately your choices.
So less about trying to like change the other person
Right.
and more about looking inward at yourself.
Yes. You can't control how someone else behaves,
Right.
but you can control how you respond.
That's easier said than done,
And
honestly.
I know.
Like, what about when disagreements come up? Because it's natural, right? Like,
Yeah.
to want to defend your own point of view.
Of course, it's totally natural. But Stoicism encourages us to try to approach those situations with maybe a little bit more emotional detachment. And it's not about suppressing your feelings or anything like that.
right.
It's just, maybe not getting completely swept away by them. Like it's trying to listen to understand instead of listening just to respond.
It reminds me of that quote by Epictetus. He said, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak.
Exactly. Active listening is so powerful, especially during disagreements. It creates space for empathy, for finding common ground, even for changing your own perspective.
So it's not about being right. It's
Yeah.
more about seeking understanding. I think that's a big shift for a lot of people.
It is. It is a big shift, but it's one that can really transform your relationships. And beyond those interpersonal relationships, Stoicism also has a lot to offer when it comes to, decision making.
Oh, for sure. And with so many choices these days, big and small, it's like so easy to get stuck, in that analysis paralysis.
Right.
So how does Stoicism help us with that?
Well, it brings you back to your values. Stoicism encourages you to really approach your decisions with clarity and purpose.
Okay.
So identify what your values are, make sure your choices are lining up with those values, and then whatever the outcome is, you just accept it.
So less agonizing over every single possible scenario.
Right.
More about making a conscious choice, trusting yourself, and
Yep.
moving forward.
Exactly. You can't control the future,
Right.
but you can control how you approach it. It's about focusing your energy on what you can control, right?
Right.
Like what are the best choices that you can make with the information that you have right now?
I'm noticing this theme keeps coming up, about letting go of that need to control everything. And it's not about being passive, right? It's more about choosing your battles.
Yes.
Focusing on what's really within your sphere of influence.
I think that's such a great way to put it. And honestly, I think that is at the heart of what Stoicism really offers.
Okay.
It's a path to living a life of meaning and purpose, guided by wisdom and virtue. And it's not like you arrive at some destination.
Right. It's a journey.
It's a journey.
It's a practice.
And like with any journey, it takes that ongoing self-reflection, right? That commitment to keep learning and keep growing.
Absolutely. But the rewards, they can be huge.
Yeah.
Resilience. Even when things are hard, a sense of tranquility, even when everything feels really chaotic. And, just that deep sense of inner peace that comes from knowing that you're living in alignment with your values. What an incredible takeaway. As we kind of wrap up our deep dive on Stoicism, is there one thing, one big thing that you want our listeners to really carry with them?
I would say the next time that you're facing a challenge, big or small, just ask yourself, what is in my control in this situation?
Okay.
And how can I respond to this in a way that feels aligned with my values, with those Stoic virtues, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance?
That is such a powerful question, and one that, honestly, I think we could all benefit from asking ourselves more often.
Me too. Because at the end of the day, we have the power to choose our response, even when life gets messy.
It's a good reminder that we're not just passive passengers in this thing called life.
Right.
We have agency. We have a choice.
Yeah.
And that is so empowering.
It is.
Well, I think this has been an awesome exploration of Stoicism.
That too. Thank you.
And to everyone listening, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you found it helpful. And until next time, may you find a bit more wisdom, a bit more tranquility, as you're on your journey.
Thanks for watching, everyone. We hope you found our exploration of Stoicism and personal growth inspiring and useful. Remember, the journey to self-improvement is a lifelong one, and every small step counts. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more insights on personal development and practical life skills. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment sharing how you plan to incorporate Stoic principles into your life. And if you think someone else could benefit from this video, don't forget to share it with your friends. Until next time, keep growing and stay resilient.